Students, and how are you all? I hope all of you are doing really fine, and I welcome you all once again on my channel Let's Learn Together. And I would also like to thank you for watching my videos, and I hope that they are positively helping you out in your academic struggles and in your studies. Well, with that, I would very quickly move on with today's content of the video. And today I'm going to discuss the fourth chapter of class 9 supplementary English reader, which is In the Kingdom of Fools. So this is the textbook that I'm referring to. This is Moments, a supplementary reader of class 9 NCRT, and the fourth chapter is that which I'm going to discuss today with you. So this chapter is of extraordinary interest to me, and if you have read it, even you would find it really fun to read because of the obvious concerns that are there in the chapter, and the kind of element of humor that has been which is the major, like the crux of the story, is something that keeps you more interested towards this particular story. But before actually moving on to this particular story, or to this particular chapter, there is one thing that I want you to ponder about and think. So you need to really think about who are fools and why do you call people fool. It is a very common word with me, generally uh, sometimes used for certain people in certain situations. So you need to think like that. I cannot give any kind of definition of a fool, because that would not really be good on my part. And moreover, maybe we cannot make generalizations very easily. It's like even a very intelligent person could be a fool in certain circumstances, or even a fool whom person who is a fool could really turn out to be a very witty in certain at certain circumstances or situations. So it depends upon how one was acting in a certain moment. But here you meet certain characters who are like foolish right from the beginning to the end. So it's as if their whole mindset and their psychological setup is being discussed here. So just think about it for a minute, about why you call, or why should, or how should you define a fool. I'm just trying to give you my interpretation of it. Now I'm not saying that this is the interpretation, or this is the definition of a fool, or that I've referred to in a dictionary. No, but from the common sense that I gather, or sometimes from the very common observation of certain people in my own life who have been around me at various places, I can only say that fools, according to me, could be somebody who would not appeal to his or her common sense very often, who would just refuse to take help from his or her common sense, and thereby blocking a kind of intellectual growth that a human being should have. So a fool would, according to me, would be somebody who just believes, or probably who is more inclined, probably not believes but more inclined uh, towards the hedonism, hedonism in life. Now what is hedonism? Hedonism is when a person, or hedonistic is a person who very easily answers his or her um, lower desires, lower kinds of desires. Now what are lower desires? When I'm talking about lower desires, and these are just the desires or the pleasures of your body, like eating excessively, sleeping, taking rest, and refraining from any kind of complex intellectual activity, or refraining from getting into any kind of circumstance which will you know put these person out of their comfort zone. So certain people who just like to stay within their comfort zone, and just answers to the very common, and a very not common but a very lower desires of their life, like they generally believe in eating and sleeping and taking rest, and refrain from getting into any kind of complex situations, or would actually kind of not allow themselves any kind of growth. So such people would gently refrain from taking their common sense also, because all of us are endowed with certain level of common sense, which makes us a human being and different from other living species of this planet, you must understand. And there is this innate desire in all of us also to find a real and hidden potential within us. So each one of us, in a way, trying to find out about who we actually are. And this is one great spiritual question which has not just plagued the people of this particular country, but people of any country around the planet. So those who refrain from getting into it and feel that whatever around them is more happy makes them happy, and they get happy only with, very they get happy with with very normal situations in life, with very uncomplicated situations in life. Those people are maybe fools, because they don't want to use their common sense, and they feel themselves extraordinarily superior to others, and would not really want to uh, do anything which would contribute anything positive to others life. And it's not just contributing anything positive to others life, they would not contribute anything towards their own growth also, which then makes them look like a fool. So it's a broad definition, but I have just tried to kind of define it, kind of like kind of categorize certain people. But it is, as I told you, not the definition of a fool. So your definition of a foolish person could be different from my definition. Please define it for yourself. This is what my interpretation of this particular word would be, right? So that's what the characters are here in this particular story. They are fools, and the story is about in the kingdom of fools. Apart from being a story of humor, which actually keeps you going, as when you keeps you going when you're reading it, and you don't really feel like stopping until you know the end. That is something which is really uh, motivating while reading the story, because it's so interesting, because it does not really have anything like glum or bleak in it. So there is, as I told you, a great inclusion of element of humor, which helps you to go through the story just in one go, even if you don't like reading. Apart from that, this particular story throws light on very important issue, which is about how fools could actually be potentially dangerous. It's actually they could do something which would be really really gravely dangerous. Like, now I just want you to go um, to another chapter from your in your own syllabus, which is A Truly Beautiful Mind, and yet there you discussed one of the greatest genius of this planet, and who was none other than Albert Einstein. He was so intelligent, although his intelligence was not recognized by his family members and by his teachers at a very early stage, but later on when he grew up, and when he started writing research papers, it was at that time that his intelligence was discovered by the whole world, and suddenly he was like revered by the whole world. So we saw in that particular chapter that how his genius had actually kind of reframed the whole world, and the laws of physics and the world of physics basically. Would You cannot study physics without having read about Albert Einstein, right? So his ideas in physics and his innovations had influenced the field of physics to a very great extent. So if it is important for us to understand how intelligent people are important in the society, this one particular chapter, this tells you about how fools could also be so dangerous that they can potentially disturb a society, right? So I and before actually moving on to the story, there is just one thing that I would like you to understand, is that in literature, fools are these characters who are fools are actually used to they are used as destabilizing agents. Actually, the characters who are very destabilized and destabilizing, like they destabilize the whole system. It could be a political system, it could be any social system, but they are so, as I told you, potentially dangerous, that it actually destabilize the whole system. But here in this particular story, you find it's a kingdom of fools. So there is this reference uh, of a kingdom where the king and the minister, the main minister, were foolish. Now, as I told you, that in literature, actually, these characters are utilized to show as how destabilizing they could be. We find that this destabilization is very much in the center of the governance itself, because who could be more greater than a king in a monarchy, and then his major or the most important chief minister, right? So both of these characters are extremely foolish, and therefore the decisions that they have taken has actually destabilized the whole society over here, though he destabilized the whole of their kingdom. Like, for example, they have they have decided that day will be night and the night will be considered as day, right? Now, when you think about it, then then as a consequences of course, people would sleep in the day and work in the night, so much so that even animals have also been taught to sleep in the day and work in night. Now, if you think about it, why would anybody would do that at all? I mean, it is something which is universally acknowledged that people generally work in the day because of the light and because of the convenience of visibility. So why would anybody would like to work at night and sleep throughout the day, and therefore just wasting the sunlight that we're getting. And sunlight is in many different ways important for the survival of the life. So why would anybody do that? So this is exactly why I said that fools are somebody would just refrain from using their common sense, because they feel that they must do something different from others. And how is it now? They're not thinking about making any kind of progress in any aspect of life for their people, or doing something for their kingdom which will make the life of the people of the kingdom more easier. No, they would just head on think about something which would just be extraordinarily different from others, even if it is foolish and even if it is useless. So that is why this person is a fool, because there is no problem in doing something different from others, but that different should be go it should actually lead to the good in the society and not something stupid, right? So there is absolutely no rational reason behind why a day should be considered as night and the night would be considered as day, right? So the next example is that everything in the whole kingdom would just be available at a single cost, and that single cost could be 1 rupee, for instance. Okay, so whether you buy bananas or rice or oil or furniture or anything, everything is available just as a price of 1 rupee. So what happens is that this is again, you understand that how much knowledge of economics do these people have in their lives, and they're just forcing others to do it. And other people, the people of the kingdom, are, of course, they understand that these decisions are very foolish, but in a monarchy it was not easy to go against the set governance or the king or the minister, because they would very easily be put to death. Therefore they all had just decided to follow him because they wanted to live, right? So the story begins about how that in this kingdom of fools there came one guru and a disciple. Now the disciple and the guru, they had entered into the kingdom, and it was a beautiful place, and they rested all day. But then they found that nobody was visible throughout the day, so they just rested for some time. And then as the night was begun, uh, the shops were suddenly opened and people were back to work and everything was very much active. And then they realized that it was basically being run by people who were very foolish. And they also found that for a very little amount of money they could buy a good amount of food. So guru obviously realized that the king was very foolish, but the disciple, being the disciple and not as enlightened as the guru, and to a certain extent foolish himself, he also felt that he should stay over there because he's going to get the food very easily and at a very cheap price, so the life will be easier. But the guru says that to live with foolish people or to live with fools could be extremely and extraordinarily dangerous. And then he asked him not to stay there, but the disciple doesn't listen to his guru and he decides to stay there. The guru tries to make him understand something, but then when he doesn't, then he just leaves that place, and disciple decides to stay back in the kingdom of the foods. And he started eating to so much, because then he would eat the bananas and ghee and rice and everything, wheat or whatever was available. And of course all these things were very cheaply available, so he used to eat so much that he grew very very fat. Now as I told you, that foods will also appeal to their lower senses, and these are the senses which would just it will only propel you to live within your comfort zone, and they would not allow you to come out of your comfort zone and refraining any kind of growth to your character. So this is how even the disciple was also to a certain extent a fool. Now what happens was that one day, what happens, the story progresses with a thief trying to get into a rich merchant's house and a rich man's house. And as he was stealing things, and when after stealing he was getting away, there was this wall of the house which was extremely weak. This wall falls over the head of the thief, and the thief dies immediately. The next day, the brother of the thief He makes a complaint to the king saying that his brother, the dead thief, was actually pursuing his ancient trade. Now look at the word that he's using, ancient trade, and he's not saying that he was stealing things, which is illegal. And says he was pursuing his ancient trade, and but the wall of the rich man's house was so weak that it fell over his brother's head and the brother had died. So now he wanted the compensation for the death. The king admits the whole case and tries to, in the name of justice, he wants to give punishment to the rich man, and he summons the rich man. And this is just the beginning, and you know that how stupid the king is, that instead of punishing a wrong right person, the thief maybe, or the fact that thief's brother had the audacity to actually go to the king and file a complaint against the rich man, is itself is it's a witness of how people were actually exploiting the bad judiciary of the king maybe, or the bad common sense of the king maybe. They knew that the king is so stupid that he would be able to very easily not just get away with his brother's stealings, but at the same time he could get he could put the old man, the rich man, to punishment. So then the rich man comes up and he says that yes, the house wall was very weak, but then he blames it to the bricklayer who had actually laid the foundation of that wall many many years back. So then the bricklayer is summoned. Bricklayer comes, and then he is being told about his mistakes, or about his about the kind of criminality that he has committed by making a wall which was so weak. He puts it on to a dancing girl who was very beautiful and young, and she used to walk up and down in the lane when he used to make the wall. And there were the anklets that she would wear, and the sound of that anklet was so distracting that the bricklayer could not actually focus on his work. Then the king summons the dancer. Now the dancer is really really old, because the you must understand that the wall is extremely old, and with the passage of time it has actually led to the weakness of the wall. So now it was so old that the same dancer is extremely old herself now. She is very much a aged person now. But when she's been summoned, and when she's been told about her sins, or about her wrongful acts, and the fact that she would be put on punishment, she says that it was not her mistake but the mistake of the goldsmith, because in those days she was getting a piece of jewelry made up by the goldsmith, but he was not um, he did not make it in the first go, and rather forced her to visit his shop every now and then, and therefore she used to walk up and down in the lane, which led to the sound of the anklet that she was winning, which actually led to the distraction in the bricklayer, right? Now that goldsmith was also summoned. Now goldsmith said that it was not his fault, because he had to complete an order of jewelry making of a rich man of the kingdom. And he said that how rich men are, they're just too impatient, and then I had to complete that particular order first, and therefore I had to keep on asking the dancer to come every now and then. So therefore the rich man now had to be summoned. Now, after putting on some inquiry, they realized that rich man was actually none other than the father of the same rich man whose house had been, the wall of that house had fallen upon the thief's head, and the thief got died. So now the same rich man is again summoned in the court, and then it is told to him that he would have to die, and he would be executed. Then he says that it was not his mistake, it was the mistake of his father, who had got this wall made, or probably who had ordered for that piece of jewels to be made. But then the king thinks that, he feels that, oh, it's a very complicated thing, and after putting a lot of thought he comes to the conclusion that, like he has inherited all the riches and the properties and the luxuries from his father, he has also inherited the sins of his father. Therefore he needs to be executed for the sin that has been committed by the father. He says that you have to be executed. Now at that time, in a very hurry, this stake needed to be prepared. Now what is the stake? A stake at that place where from where the place where the hanging takes place. So the people would be hanged over there by putting a rope around their neck. When that steak was prepared, now the steak was not prepared properly, and they realized that Richmond was both too thin to be hanged at that stake. So what to do now? Now the king says that since the stake has been prepared and it has been announced that the execution will take place, therefore somebody has to be executed. Now who has to be that somebody? Somebody who was fat enough to, fit the size of the stake that had been created. You can imagine the whole illogicity of this argument and of the opinion that were coming into being. But at the same time, you can also imagine the kind of fun element that has been added, and you keep on reading it, the story. Anyway, now they wanted to find out a fat man. Now you remember that disciple had entered, who had entered the city right in the beginning of the story, who had really grown very fat. He was picked up from the road, and it was said that now he would be executed since he was fat enough to fit the size of the stake. Now the disciple was really, really very frightened, because the king was so stupid that nothing could actually, stop him from doing that. So he remembered his guru now, and he remembered the words of his guru, who said that, fools are extremely dangerous, so nobody, you should never mess up with them actually. So then he, now since he was guru, and he had some kind of gurus, and these shishyas, or the disciples, they have some kind of spiritual powers. So he just remembered his guru in his mind, and somehow the message was sent out to the guru, who himself was a spiritual guru. So he appears over there to help him out, to help his disciple, and then he says, okay, I'm going to try to help you. So then he makes up a story in his mind, because he knew that king would never listen to the right arguments or the right opinion, because he was just too wooden head, you can say, or a blockhead, you can say, who would not be able to understand the right argument. So he makes a story, and the story is that he says that, that instead of his disciple, the guru should be put to death. Now the king was confused. Why was it that the guru wanted to be hanged? Then he says that actually, I know with my powers that if I die today, then I'm going to be reborn as the king of the same kingdom, and anybody who would die after me would become the minister. So I want to become the king, since I'm just fed up with the ascetic life, with the life of being a rishi. So therefore I want to enjoy my life now in the next round of life, and therefore you please execute me first, and then execute my disciples, so that I reborn as a uh, I get reborn as as the king, and the disciple takes birth again as in the form of the ministers. Now this was something that had now confused him, and it actually, motivates to think him that, the king started thinking that he did not want to leave his kingdom, and therefore he thought that actually he should put himself to death, and then his minister, so that they are reborn as the king and the minister of the same kingdom. So stupid that he doesn't understand that it was all the plan that was being made by the guru to save himself and his disciple from these difficult situations. Then he does one thing, that he releases the guru and the disciple, and he orders his executioners. He says that, I will just send both of these people tonight, and then you should just put them to death without asking any questions. So then they disguise themselves, the king and the minister disguise themselves as the guru and the shishya, and then they go to the stake, and of course they are killed. Right. Now you know that with the intelligence of the guru, actually a very big uh, danger was actually altered. Now if this wouldn't have happened, then definitely the disciple would have been put to death for almost no reason. There was absolutely no reason for him to die. So then the people of the kingdom, they request the guru and the disciple to become their real king and the ministers, because they wanted to work with somebody, or they wanted to have somebody who would really would be intelligent. And then, the guru and the disciple says that they are ready to become the minister and the king, only on one condition, that they're going to change the all the rules and the laws that had been created by the earlier ruler. So this is how the story goes. That's the end of the story. So you could understand about how potentially they are dangerous, because a fool doesn't have the capacity to think in a right in a positive manner. So they're just so blind with their power and with the pride that they would not allow any kind of thought to enter their mind which would be as opposed to what they have thought. And therefore it is important for us to understand that you should stay away from such people, and it will need a great amount of energy to actually handle such people or to regulate such foods. The story tells you the potential problems that a fool can actually cause if such people are placed in high positions in the governance or at any responsible positions in the society. So like you had seen Einstein, who was a blessing to this planet, there are variety of fools who are a curse, who could actually turn out to be the curse for human civilizations. So read this story. This is what the story of the chapter is all about. Just pay attention towards the kind of arguments that has been placed by the king, and you see that there is absolutely no logic and no rational behind them. And you also enjoy the story reading it, because it is extremely hilarious, it is extremely funny, but at the same time do address the issues that I have just told you about, how to define a fool, and what is the line actually which makes you wise or a fool. So you need to decide that for yourself. As I told you, there are people are not absolutely fools or absolutely wise. There are times when even an intelligent person like Einstein was also tricked, isn't it? I'm not calling him a fool, but then he was also tricked by the US government in the formation of that atomic bomb, which was then dropped onto Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that led to the death of millions and millions of people in just few seconds. So then after that, actually, Einstein, also being one of the most intelligent minds of this planet, he also realized that he had made a mistake. Right, he was so disappointed, and he was so much grief stricken that he had actually appealed for a world government. If you remember that particular chapter, just read the last paragraph of the chapter. It talks to you about how Einstein wanted to go for a world government, and how he had actually wanted to become, or to be known as a citizen of the whole world and not just belonging to certain national boundaries. How he believed that the national boundaries are just useless because they divide people and they lead to unnecessary death, right? So if there could be wise people around you, intelligent people around you, who could be tricked, or who could just act foolishly in certain circumstances. So no people are only wise and no people are only fool. It depends upon how you think or how you act, and how do you decide to take decision on certain moments. But you can be for most of the time wiser, you can be for most of the time intelligence. Even if you fool for certain moments in your life, it's all right. But don't become or at least don't try to be don't just overestimate your intelligence. Just keep questioning yourself about whatever you think your belief systems are, and that will keep you sane, and that will keep you on the right path. That is just the secret of gaining intelligence. Put yourself in difficult conditions, because challenges are something that will help you to grow mentally. So with that, I am just ending this video. Thank you so much for staying with me throughout this video. I hope this will help you in reading and enjoying this chapter. Thank you so much.